Hey guys, this is Denisa from Inksmith, and today we're going to go over an intro to 3D printing. Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about what 3D printing is, and what it is an additive manufacturing technology. Now there's a bunch of different categories. When I say that, the one that 3D printing falls under is FDM printing. So FDM is fused deposition modeling, and what this means is that it takes material and it just adds it layer on top of layer until you get your 3D model. So another way to think about this would be to think of a glue gun. So a glue gun, what it does is it melts the glue, exactly like this would melt the plastic, but with the glue gun, I'm sure you've never done this before, but you can definitely add layer by layer, and you could build something like a 3D printer with a glue gun as well. So 3D printing works exactly like the inkjet printer that you have at your house, but instead of ink, what we're using is a spool of plastic called filament, and we tell the 3D printer where it should go, and it just does it layer by layer, keeps adding on that material. So you might be asking yourself, okay, 3D printing is cool, but what do I actually use it for? So that's what we're going to talk about next. 3D printing is used in a lot of different things. Most commonly, it's used for manufacturing and prototyping though. So prototyping and manufacturing are basically when you have multiple iterations of the same thing until you get to your final product. So this was one of our first models of our Kate robot. Obviously it's not the best, so then we developed this one, and this one was pretty close to being our final one, which then turned into this, which we now manufacture on a larger scale. So it was a great way for us to test and see which version we liked better and what changes we needed to make, and it was also very cost effective. So we at Inksmith, we specialize in using 3D printing for education, which is the next topic that I'm going to get into. So in recent years, more and more 3D printers have been put into the classroom, and that's great because there's so many ways that you can use 3D printing in the classroom. So it varies from things like different models, so you could literally teach the students about the cell and show them on the cell where everything is. You can show them important people in history, so you can use it for printing props and different things to sort of tag onto your lessons. It's also good, you can print parts for different things that you're making, so if you're a tech teacher or anything like that, you can have them print one small part of a full assembly to sort of make your thing work together. So as you can see from these examples, 3D printing can be used in so many ways in education, and it just helps them learn so much better. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, 3D printing is cool, but why should I use it in the classroom? And there's a multitude of different reasons. So the main one is that it uses critical thinking. You have to think about how it's going to be designed, you have to think about how it's going to be printed, because there's a couple different things you have to think about in that process. You have to think about how it's going to function, how strong it'll be, and different elements that go into that. So it's also huge in problem-solving skills. If you have a problem, or say you need a doorstop designed, you could make the kids design that, and they could think about, okay, how am I going to design this? How am I going to solve this problem? How do I empathize with this situation? It's also super cost effective, so instead of going out and buying all of your different models and things that you'd use, the 3D printing is something that not a lot of people have seen. A lot of students don't have it at home. So when you are using 3D printing in the classroom, we found that students are so much more engaged because it's something new, it's something fun, and it's something that they get involved in as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how much 3D printing actually costs in the classroom. Now, machines can vary in prices. There's more expensive ones and there's less expensive ones, but really the only cost that you have after you buy the printer is the filament itself. Now, there are different kinds of filament out there on the market. Some are better than others, but typically the only filament that you will use in a school setting, a library setting, or any education setting is PLA filament. And the reason that we use PLA filament is because it's non-toxic. It's made of biodegradable materials like different plant starches, mainly corn and sugarcane and stuff like that. But it doesn't give off any toxins when it's printing, and because it's made from those materials, it's relatively inexpensive. So we at Inksmith always recommend the use of PLA in education settings because it is so easy to use, it's not prone to warping like other materials are, it's consistent to print with, and it's easily removable as well. So all those factors plus the non-toxic part of it is why we say that PLA is the best material. And it's the best material for prototyping in general because it's so easy to use and it's always consistent.
So besides in your classroom, why is 3D printing important? Where have you seen it in real life? and how can it help better the world? In some places, such as Mexico, where construction companies are actually using 3D printers to build houses. So like Denisa has shown you in the introduction, these houses are getting printed layer by layer from the ground up. And what this does is it essentially provides affordable housing for hundreds of thousands of people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it. Another industry where 3D printing has really grown and become super important is within the medical devices. We're now seeing examples of 3D printed heart valves or prosthetic arms that essentially save lives and support healthier living and well-being of others. Did you know, for example, that prosthetic arms or legs or any prosthetics wear out over time? Just as your running shoe might wear out, so does a prosthetic, which means that people who have to have prosthetics are actually having to purchase them multiple times over and over and over again. So while you know now a little bit about Inksmith and how we're an edtech company, you may not know the story of how we actually created a spin-off sister company called the Canadian Shield. And this started back in March of 2020 when schools were shut down indefinitely due to COVID. And essentially we had a doctor come in, it was March 20th, 2020, when a local doctor came into our office and asked if we could 3D print the brace they needed to make a face shield for the frontline medical workers in Waterloo region. Now, at the time, hospitals in the region, along with many other hospitals, were looking for local 3D printing companies to help fill the shortage of over 10,000 face masks per week. At the time, they actually had none. So how we were able to help was we fired up all our in-house printers and called on our community of customers, which were educators, to help produce the masks that they so desperately needed. And it wasn't necessarily the plastic face part. It was 3D printing the shields or the band that would actually wrap around the head part that would connect to the shields. So we led the mobilization of thousands of people within our community to help build these shields. Because a 3D printer was essentially building the brace. And we used our laser cutters to build the face covering. So once they were built, we would just give them all away. We'd give them away to our local hospitals. We'd give them away to essentially people who were in desperate need of them. And once we realized that this pandemic wasn't going away, and that COVID was here for a while, and that this was a real need that people and hospitals and healthcare and frontline workers really needed, we decided to scale up that business and scale up that production. So essentially we used, in the beginning, our 3D printers to create the first few prototypes. And I say few because I think we went through about 107 different prototypes before getting to the one that we're at now. And I think, 107 is probably on the low end of that as well. But the point is, we use 3D printers for the initial production of our face shields and as the initial means to build a business. As we were scaling up our production of face masks, what we noticed was that the time it took to 3D print the brace of the headbands for the face masks became a bottleneck for producing the millions and millions of face masks that Canadians desperately needed. We were able to laser cut the plastic piece, the shield itself, within a couple of minutes, but it took hours to actually 3D print the band. So that just wasn't going to be feasible anymore for us to actually create and meet the demand that was asked of us and that Canada needed, really. So where are we at today? We are at 320 employees. That's up from the initial 10 that we were at before. We're at a 50,000 square foot facility, again, up from our initial 3,000 square foot facility. And we now have the capacity to make 200,000 face masks a day. Plus, we also make disposable face masks and reusable face masks. And this was all possible because of the initial prototype that was created by a 3D printer. So besides in your classroom, why is 3D printing important? Where have you seen it in real life? So what you're seeing on your screen here is the use of electricity, circuits in particular, and other engineering concepts that allowed us to add automation into the production process of our face masks. Through using automation and innovation in automation, such as the ones you're seeing here, we're now able to produce much, much more face masks than ever before. And what that means is that we're now helping even more Canadians during COVID.